Today's episode of Poets at War is sponsored by the following. Imagine countless worlds before you. Fantasy and science fiction tales. Heroes charging gallantly into battle, heedless of win or fail. Upon the ancient steps of glory, a battle for time must be won. Join the characters from every realm as they seek the words, "Well done." Audio Adventures Podcast by Joshua David Ling, full of epic poetry, sure to make your heart sing. If you like listening to Rob Inglis read The Lord of the Rings, or Andrew Peterson read his Wingfeather Saga, you'll love Audio Adventures by Joshua David Ling. Visit joshuadavidling.com/audioadventures to listen.
Today on Poets at War, we speak with Benjamin Curlee about the home-work-life balance of Atlanta and how Hollywood is moving there, and an artisan's craftsmanship mindset in the arts. You are now entering the war zone. This is Poets at War!
Yeah. So, how you been?
Not bad. Braves won the World Series. That was really great.
Yes.
Oh,
I
man.
have not gone back to watch that yet.
Not you didn't get to watch any of it?
I watched the one that they played here at Truist and just before.
Okay.
And then that was a disappointment. And then I was actually camping when they played the last game.
Ah, okay. Gotcha. You were out in the middle of nowhere.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. A lot of my narrative friends get sick of me talking about the Braves, but there's just so much story that went into this year with that. It's just like, it's all narrative. Like baseball is so incredibly narrative. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I know who you are, and we could just talk for hours because we do on phone calls every now and then.
Oh, we do. Yes.
But and I can give a little bit of background before we talk about you in depth. But Benjamin and I have known each other for a really long time. We met because a friend of ours, a mutual friend who will also be on the podcast. Hopefully, I think I'm recording with him next week. We started, the three of us, sort of some story to screen movie review podcast. That was really fun. We did that for a while, and Benjamin and I grew closer and closer, and we became coworkers for a while. We're still kind of coworkers. I do freelance for the company he's employed by. And so, yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of connections we've had over the years. I guess that's a good introduction. You want to tell people what you do, what, I'm a bard. What are you?
Yeah. So, man, that's one of those things. It's like, I remember at 18 having like this major crisis about what are my passions? What am I supposed to do when I become adult? And it's like, okay, want to go back and slap myself. It wasn't that big a deal. Okay. The world isn't going to change just because you turn 18, but it sure felt like it. So very similar to you, I am a multimedia, multi-hat wearing individual. Specialties being video and design. So yeah, but my hand is in just a little bit of everything because that's the freelance world.
I'm going to do a cut here, edit. I'm just going to move this guy over here. And yes, it'll be a different angle. I don't care. I'm going to look at you. Or at least as close to you as I can. How's this eye angle? Not terrible?
No, it looks good.
It's better? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. How's my audio coming through, by the way?
Your audio
I haven't had a
sounds
chance
great.
to really. I picked up this mic because so my XLR mic died on me last week.
This is the geek talk, everybody.
Yes. I spilled my drink on it, so it's kind of my fault. Okay, the XLR mic is fine. It's the USB audio interface that's broken. So I had to run out to Best Buy and go pick up a mic today. So I haven't had a chance to really play with it yet. So I hope it's sounding good.
So back to what you were saying about your big,
Yes.
crisis and everything, especially
Yes.
considering like it's very obvious you're much more into like the details of the, the microphone you're using than the big picture. Like, see how it'd be a little scary.
Well, okay. So I am a details person. And
Unlike
actually,
me.
actually, just earlier today, we were building out a quote, and for a potential client, we were building out the gear list for a studio. And I was just, geeking out, browsing B&H. It's like, okay, this camera with this lens, that'll give us that look. And so that is my specialty. I love that. I thrive on that. My background, I started out as a HVAC technician with the control side of it, not the mechanical side, working for my dad. And I did that for just shy of a decade. The last 4 years of that time, at least 4 years, I was doing a lot of my own video stuff, basically just making little short films, satire pieces, occasionally a paid commercial, but not very much. But basically, I was trying to learn my craft as best I could. Meanwhile, I was harassing a local production company, local Christian production company, to hire
Shall we
me.
name drop them?
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Go
If for anyone who's familiar with Wretched TV with Todd Friel,
Mm-hmm.
they were just up the road from me, about 30 minutes away, and I harassed them for years until they finally had an opening. And that was the big giant foot in the door to completely change my industry and change the whole trajectory of what I do. So it was really a prayer come true.
Yeah, and since then you've worked on just about every kind of multimedia job you possibly can.
Yes.
You are the fixer, the detail guy. You're, in the weeds, taking care of things. Lately, you've been doing some conferences and things of that nature, making sure they're live streaming. You work with Adrian Rink, who I'm hopefully going to have at some point. I haven't asked him yet, but hopefully going to have some point on this podcast. Also worked at Wretched. And, so many guys have come out of Wretched and moved on to some amazing things. There's some amazing guys working there now. It's just seems to have been a very fertile ground for creators.
Well, Wretched, Wretched is a forge. Mm-hmm. And you either come out of it on the other side stronger and more refined, or you get tossed to the side. That's the culture that is Wretched.
Yep.
For good or bad, that's what it is.
Yep. So there's a couple other guys that used to be on with Wretched that I'd love to get on the show too. Chocolate Knox and Marcus Pittman. You guys probably, some of you guys who listen know about them. I'm hoping to get them on at some point. Haven't asked yet, but I usually ask and people say yes, and then I schedule it, and then you go from there. It's not
there you
like
go. Yeah.
I don't really work very far out. It's just kind of like, let's go. But yeah, so anyway, so you've been in this for a while now. We got to be 15 plus now, right? For you?
Okay. So if we count the years that I was basically just doing it in my free time,
which I do.
Yeah, then we are probably, no, we're not that many. I would say we're approaching 9, maybe 10 years.
Really? Only that long?
Yes.
I always forget you're so much younger than me.
I know, right? No, because I was at Wretched for 3.5 years. And then I've been working freelance now for 3. Yes.
I got you.
And then on top of the 4 years. So yeah.
You have learned so much more than me in such a much shorter amount of time. I'm like jealous because I'm still figuring stuff out that you're like way ahead of me on.
Hey, I love problem solving. And actually that's I love problem solving.
He's a
That's
puzzle
part of the
guy.
details. Yeah.
I get people.
Listen. That paired with my laziness, I will spend a day finding an easier way to do something rather than just sitting down and doing it for 20 minutes. That's me.
Well, there you go. Especially when we don't have the money to do it, right?
Exactly.
Do it the easy way. We'll find the workaround crazy way.
Yes.
So you're a MacGyver. You're a wizard, making the signal go from one end to the other. I liken it to plumbing, and a lot of people think I'm crazy. Like honestly, plumbing is more complicated to me thinking about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure I could figure it out, but the idea of getting a signal from one end to the other has always been, dropping stuff. Always been really important to me. Just because, getting the gospel out, getting not just the gospel, but good stories and edifying people. It's such a powerful thing to be able to communicate. And, being a veteran in this war, I actually wanted to start this podcast with you, Poets at War.
I know, right?
As a co-anchor, but you've been too busy.
I know.
That's always open. Friend.
Alas, I am glad that it is living beyond me, though, because if it was on me, then yeah.
But being a veteran in the war, what has been like the most important parts to the actual culture warfare within all those details? What have been the things that have allowed you, the principles and even the details and moments that have allowed you to really work at a higher level, and actually, gain ground in the war, so to speak?
Yeah. When you work in the arts, you like to philosophize and make a lot of things theoretical that you honestly shouldn't. So going back to your plumbing parallel, people hire a plumber, or you would hire a plumber because he's a good plumber. You wouldn't hire a plumber because he's a Christian plumber. And a Christian plumber is not going to do necessarily different work than a secular plumber.
Right.
He's going to do a good job. His ethics will be different, but as far as his technique and the clients he takes on, really no difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so applying that here, because when it comes to Christians in media, we like to glorify the art, so to speak, rather than treating the art like a craft. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'm bringing skills to the table here, much like any other craft. And it's a skill that in many ways is intangible, at least as far as what I produce, but it still has real world value to people. And I have to approach it from that perspective, as more of as a craftsman rather than an artist, so to speak. And wrapping my head around that, I think, has really helped clarify the type of work that I do and how I approach it. And honestly, I don't know. I want to. I used to walk around in some of the Christian film circuits, and I would love to go back and just give a lecture on why they need to stop hyper focusing on the details of, well, okay, you can allow your actors to kiss, but only in these circumstances, and they shouldn't say these words. And it's like, it's not that cut and dry, and it's not that philosophical.
Yeah. And I think that's one way we have, diverged and come back on each other over the years. There is a side of you that is an artist as well, hence why being on Poets at War. But there's the artisan mentality, which is kind of the in-between too,
Yes.
In between someone who does a craft and someone who's an artist. I tend to be more on the artist side, I think. Even though I'm technically sound. I can do technically great stuff. My heart is in creating something out of my heart and out of myself. And I think that actually comes from, surprisingly, even though like I have big emotions and feelings, that really actually, I think more than anything comes out of, well, it's more of like thinking in terms of resources.
Mm-hmm.
My mind, so long as I don't, go crazy, is unlimited as far as imagination can go. I can think up stories and make stuff up, as long as I can, and that is something, that is a well that does not run dry unless I run dry, which then I'll have bigger issues.
Yeah.
And so, point being that, I'm thinking, long term for my kids and all that kind of stuff. I want them to have something, and the best thing that I think I can give them on both a moral level, we're talking an artistry moral kind of level, and then also in a eventual monetary level, as I've had faith that this will come about, giving them intellectual property, because it is actual property that they will be taking on, regardless of whether it's big in my time or they can make it big in theirs. So it's kind of like crypto that way. It's like you never know where the value is going to go, but you gotta kind of stake your claim and go from there. It's not just crypto, that's any kind of investment of time, of talent, etc. So what do you think was the draw for you into the technical aspect, playing with your cameras and toys and things like that? Like what really brought you into that world and made you want to pursue a career out of filmmaking and all the other crazy things that surround it these days?
Yeah, I think one of the things that solidified the value of good storytelling, or just storytelling in my mind, was the time that I put together, I don't even remember the name of the program now. It was similar to iMovie, but it was for Windows, and it wasn't Windows Movie Maker, but it was along those lines, really basic level. I was basically putting together slideshows with music, but I had text on top of it. And I decided to basically go through the story of the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, pulling out key things and then tying together. And I had a really fun time making it. And I pulled a piece of music from Lord of the Rings. I forget the name of the track now, but put that all together. And one Thanksgiving, I think my relatives were over, and I had my granddad watch it. And he's watching it, and there's no narration or anything. He's reading text as the music plays, and gets to the end, and he's got tears in his eyes. And just watching him moved by that, watching him moved by the narrative of the Bible, just thrown into a 3-minute piece, combined with the music. It's like, it's storytelling allows us to engage our emotions in a different way. And so that's why I would say that's probably a defining moment in when I realized that there is actual value here in pursuing this as a craft. It's not just something fun that I do and show to friends.
Right. So. Right. Yeah. The any chance you still have that video lying around somewhere?
There is a chance. There's a chance. I've got some hard drives sitting on the shelf. It might be there somewhere.
Well, if you find it, I will link it in the show notes eventually.
Okay. And I mean, it's got copyrighted music, so I don't know.
We'll put it on Dropbox somewhere. People can.
There we go.
Anyway, we'll figure it out. So
yeah.
But
details.
Good old copyrights. Anyway, or we could re-edit it with some royalty free.
Well, no, that's one of that honestly, that video is one that one day I want to come back to and remake it again with the skills that I have now.
That'd be cool.
So I don't know. I just don't have time to pursue that project at present, but one day.
Yeah, when I first started making videos, it was because of I don't know if I've ever told you this. I may have, but considering how much we've talked over the years, but I am and still and was more so than I am now, but still huge pro wrestling fan, you know.
Mhm.
And Sting, who's a Christian, really great guy. He's still in the wrestling business. He was my favorite growing up, and I just wanted to make some music video tribute type thing for him. And my first one was to the song "Bring It On" by Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Yes.
Well, a
Yes.
little known B-side track. You're nodding like you really do know that song, though.
I forget exactly which one, but Stephen Curtis Chapman, he's a classic.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So
I think I've heard most of his. Yeah.
that one's on the Declaration album. But anyway, he I had no clue. So this gives you a little bit of an idea here. It had to have been 2006, 2007, something like that. I had Windows Movie Maker on XP, Windows XP,
Mhm.
and I was just learning how to use it. And I could not for the life of me figure out how to mute video clips. So what I did instead, and this goes to your thing about like being lazy or finding a way around things or whatever else. I found two programs. One, and this is, sorry for the technical side, folks. Just I think you'll laugh anyway. I think you'll kind of get where I'm going. Basically, I used one program, which is a video game tool, Rad Video Tools, to break it out into break these clips out into individual frames, and then recompile them with another piece of software, which I cannot remember the name of, into animated GIFs, which I then pulled back into Windows Movie Maker. They were in slow motion, but it worked
Because the
out.
frame rate was off, and
Yeah, because the frame rate was off. Yes. So, but I found a way to mute those video clips because animated GIFs don't have sound. God darn it!
But it's GIF, by the way. But anyway,
No, it's not. Anyway, but it's Smuckers. No. So yeah, but I know we had talked a little bit. You've listened to one or two episodes of the show now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got to ask you, what are your overall thoughts? What can I improve on? Because you're Mr. Details here. I'm Mr. Big Picture. I got a great concept. I got a great theme song. But come on, man, help me out. What do I need?
Oh no.
And be
okay.
brutal.
All right. So
be brutal.
I haven't listened to enough to be able to do that well.
That's okay.
I really, okay. So when we were first talking about creating this podcast, you were going off on how on the introduction, basically that old newscast, or what's the word?
This sort of a thing right here. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That right there. Yes. And I wasn't fully convinced. Like I was like, okay, it sounds cool. And now that I've heard it, it's like, oh, I love it. I love it. It's a key characteristic to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. The drums really nail it and everything else. Yeah. But go ahead.
I honestly, I don't have much. I really don't have any criticisms. And I think that's something I've had to train myself in being less harsh about things, because I've had to let go of a lot of projects that were nowhere near as polished as I wanted them to be. But I'm learning to cope with that. So,
yep.
There is always, we are always improving.
Yes.
And the only time I think I need to speak up to a problem is when we repeat the same problem twice. And it's like, okay, we're missing something. Right. Otherwise, I'll assume everyone else sees it and is improving.
So, what is the hardest thing that you do?
Balancing being a dad while working.
Well, besides that,
Yeah.
like I actually in your job, what is the
Yeah.
hardest part?
No, in my
We'll
job,
come back
it
to that
is.
if you want, but
Yes.
I want to hear what's the hardest actual task that you perform in your job.
Yes. Um, managing people. So I can't seem to wrap my head around, and this is something that I'm becoming more and more aware of, and I need as the company tries to grow and bring on more people, like I
Yonder
need
Child
to,
Media, give them business so I can come back on full time. Anyway,
yes. Yeah, no, so as the need comes about, I anticipate that I'm going to need to move into a more managerial role, because I've more experience, been with the company long, just that's just the natural way of life. But learning how to balance managing people and giving them feedback, especially remotely, is really hard.
Yeah,
really hard talking people through. So I'm sure a lot of people are already aware of that, having been through a pandemic where so many people work from home. But yeah, giving that back and forth, theoretically it shouldn't be that hard, because it's like, all right, just share your screen and okay, click that and do this. But it's not that simple, because there's this craft is both an art and a science. I can tell people, oh, okay, cut that exactly 2 frames prior. Or your audio is clipping. Look at those meters there. Little things like that. I can tell them. I can give them those rules. That's the science part. It's that art side that it's really hard to convey, especially when you're dealing with latency and whatnot on the internet. It's hard to teach them what it feels like as far as like the beats go, the edit, the cuts, and how it paces with the music. And so it's like, it's something that you feel. And that's how you start crafting your own style, honestly.
Right.
And that's how you can recognize an editor based on his work, because of just how it feels.
I gotcha. Yeah. No, I totally understand that. Getting back to the family work-life balance, this is something you and I have had a lot of conversation about. One of the things that we've done in here, and I'm not going to do tour right now, I'll do one off air for you, but I have my own office for the first time. Like,
how's that?
Fully, actually, this room is only my office for a
with
little
a door.
while there. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, for a little while, it was also where Peter and Mama slept and everything until like a couple of days ago. And so now I actually have it full time. I can come in here in the middle of the night if I want and do something. That kind of a thing. I'm not gonna bother people that way. And so that's been a huge change, but worked out really well for her too, because now she's got a full nursery with both kids, and she loves that. That's her office. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
But our it's been really good since you asked. Like, I haven't nearly put up everything that I want and gotten everything together the way I want, but I'm working on it, and I'm working toward trying to my overall goal. And this is my sort of, not exactly therapy session, but just getting something off my chest. I already told Casey this, but telling someone else is important. Telling even the listeners is important, and you especially. But my big thing at the moment is trying to create systems for my art, and essentially creating a workflow that is not going to burn me out.
Yes.
But is also going to be as balls to the wall as I can stand it.
Yeah.
And also allow me to repurpose the initial recording process with as little editing as possible. Being able to repurpose for vertical videos like TikTok and landscape, and for Odyssey and YouTube and the rest. I'm considering going back to YouTube for a little while, but it feels like an abusive relationship.
Yes. Yes.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
um but yeah, so basically right now that's my biggest thing, is just creating my systems. But being at home, having a diversified income, since y'all took me from full-time to part-time freelance, has been a blessing in and of itself. I've had to trust God more. I've had to relax more.
Mm.
And I honestly feel better than I ever have with my work-life, family balance, everything else, even though I'm having to really hustle at certain points. Y'all's work is actually the hardest for me at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even though it's not like super hard, behind the scenes baseball stuff, I don't think I'm credited in any way whatsoever. But I work on founder stuff with you.
Yes.
I don't mind saying that you guys work on it subcontracted under Chalk Knox, I believe.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So y'all are subcontracted, and I'm subcontracted under that. So
Yes.
this is the way
Yes.
this works. But honestly, the biggest, most annoying thing, and this is actually the hardest part of my job going into that, is doing the B-roll isn't hard. I'm actually picking out the B-roll and giving you a one cut so you can then edit it for final.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is my machines and my internet not keeping up with my creativity. And that is the worst of the situations. Unfortunately,
Yes.
Augusta is horrible for internet. I have 2 hotspots that I run off of, and I don't have the money to tie them together right now with Speedify. So I'm just, winging it. It's working very well tonight, but
Yeah.
anyway, getting back to your thing, I want to know about your work-life balance, that I've said my part. I want
Yeah, no, it goes back and forth. This summer was really hard on the family. Before the summer started, we had a nice routine, a nice schedule. We knew when I would get off and when I could help the family, and then the summer came around and I did so much traveling and our schedules just went all over the place. So we're trying to resettle that, and it's difficult. But I would say the hardest part is it's twofold. I need to focus, because my ability to focus directly results or directly impacts my ability to work and provide for my family. Mm-hmm. So it is incredibly important that I'm able to focus. At the same time, I have to pull back and remember, no, my family needs me too. I need to be there for them.
Yep.
So I've got to find that balance between when do I need to tell them, okay, guys, y'all are disrupting me, or stepping out and saying, hey guys, what's going on? Let me help. And finding that balance. And I usually tend to err on the side of, well, as men, our work is, our identity is wrapped up in our work. And so I tend to err on the side of, you guys are disrupting me. Stop. I need to provide for you. So shut up. And that's, that's wrong. That's a wrong attitude. That's a wrong way to approach it. I mean, there are times that, yes, they are disrupting me and they need to be more mindful, but I also need to model the gospel to them in my providing for them. And that's difficult. That's where theology comes to the day to day. And yeah.
You know what? Every time I hear you talk about that, it brings me back to a story. Not a personal story or anything. It's a very well-known, well-beloved story. I'm sure you're extremely familiar with it. It's called Monsters, Inc.
Yes.
It is the absolute best movie about the home work-life balance. It is the absolute best allegory to having what it is like having a child disrupt your workplace. And that just goes back to you've got that detail, you've got what you do, but I know you well enough to know, like, you know how to put the artist aside and knuckle down and get to business. but you've got an artist inside you that really wants to do some cool stuff too.
Yes.
and that's one of those things where I see, I think that, and this is just me spitballing, but I have found when I find that it's actually a threefold balance in my life more so. And that helps me from going to one side or the other too much. And no, the third isn't God in some kind of cheesy, goofy way. It's actually, the family, the artist, and the workman. And if I'm not doing something that excites me, in a storytelling kind of way, I have to pause, step back before I start going crazy, and just start putting something down, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, not to be humanistic in how we think about things, but you can't pour out of an empty bucket.
Right.
You've got to be, and this applies to both your creative and your spiritual well-being. You've got to be feeding yourself, and your physical. You've got to be feeding yourself and taking care of yourself so that you can pour into other people and other things.
Yeah, and there are times when you need to take a break, but I'm not even advocating for taking a break. What I'm actually advocating for is turning to the thing your heart wants and actually pursuing it. And I'm talking specifically about something you do. I'm not even talking about like you were telling me earlier, like sitting down and video gaming and that kind of thing. Like that can be part of it depending on how you want to do it. But think of something productive that is the greatest thing that you want, something you really want to accomplish. That's actually like inside your heart and inside your soul. It could be, going and building the shed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It can be any of those things. And if you're doing one of those kinds of projects, especially as a man, and you're making sure it gets done as to the best of your ability, I find the other work gets so much easier.
Yes,
because
you're fulfilled,
right?
Because you're being creatively fulfilled.
That part of the curse, I'm completely convinced, is the fact that is twofold. One, that we cannot appreciate all of the work that we do because we're messed up. And then also because the work itself has been messed up because there's so much maintenance to just keeping things alive in a vain way, because we know it's all going to die eventually anyway.
Sure. Well, and don't get me started, because that was probably the most heartbreaking thing about my work as a service technician was fixing something and knowing that 3 months down the road I will be fixing that exact same thing again. Like soul crushing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to talk about that kind of soul crushing, talk about working at, as much as I love the place, Publix. I worked at Publix for 5 years as a front service clerk, but I did a million other things too. And it's just one of those things where to pass the time, I was, we get a total between 1776 and today, and I'd try to name the president and just say it out loud. And people would go, what? And I just do little goofy things like that in order to like break their rhythm, break them out of their rhythm to have an actual conversation that might have some significance in the future. Like that's how desperate.
When you are the small cog in the giant machine, you don't get to see that full pipeline. Like you don't get to step back and say, okay, these, the running the store is bringing in groceries or bringing in produce that then feed this family, and I'm seeing that family become like, you don't see that big picture. You don't get to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's really crazy. Like to think about, to know so much about story and how the universe works through story, how God has woven his word, his story throughout the entire universe. And then to be sitting there, switching flips on widgets all day long. And sometimes that's necessary, and it's because of the curse. Yeah. But that's something that we're warring against constantly. And that's, one of the things, I think you listened to James O'Farron's podcast probably on he talked about Christian transhumanism and that sort of a thing. This is where technology, you know, us being in the AV field, we have a specific part of that technology, you know, whatever. But like when it comes to building things to help people deal with the curse, you know, and Christ is actually allowing us to do that over the centuries and build things to his glory. That's something that, you know, far too many people get suspicious of, and you know, they get wearied by the technology. And I just want to say, like, anything that's going to allow me to spend more time with my children, to write more stories for the hundreds of years, hopefully my stories last after me, you know, anything that I can do to just, and it's not me laying down me, it's me using the voice that God gave me to have an impact on the people of the future, you know, even if they never know my name. That's something everyone wants. And I feel like artist types and even some artisan types, they're so much more aware of it than someone else who just, they're happy, they're cared for, you know, etc. And that's nothing against them. I love those people. They're great. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
My wife is one most of the time, and she tells me, calm down. And that is very, very helpful.
I don't know how many times my wife has turned to me and said, man, I wish you could just, you know, do a 9 to 5 and then clock out and then be home.
Speaking of the wife.
Hey!
He says, hey. You're trying to show the baby. Here.
Oh, sleeping baby.
Behind the
yes. Oh, he's getting so big. I need to bring the family up there. We need to see y'all.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
Come on over. And he says he needs to come see us soon. Come see the house. You haven't seen the new house. So
no, I know. Yeah.
Yep. We could take what? Oh yeah, we could. Yeah. The pictures y'all said you would do at some point.
Oh,
so yes. You could take them here. Yeah.
Yes. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening to her. Right. She said the last pictures we took her in front of the bus because that's where we thought we'd be living. And so now we can be here. So she's all happy and romantic about that. See, that's the thing. She has romantic notions, but she's not particularly artistry. Like she does do some artsy things, but like she's not consumed with it like some people I know.
Yes.
She said, I used to be, then I had kids. Her kids are her art.
Yes. Yes. I wish more moms recognize that.
Definitely.
I wish more dads recognize that too.
Right?
Like, yeah.
That's, you know, and that's one of those things that I tell people all the time. My daughter at, you know, something like, I mean, as soon as she could have, you know, form full sentences, basically broke down Beauty and the Beast in 3-act structure, like in front of me. She's like, Beast was bad. Belle came, helped him feel better, you know, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But she did it in like 3 sentences, a 3-act breakdown of Beauty and the Beast, just telling me the story. And I'm like, girl, you've got instinct. She just has it in her mind that she's going to help me with my stories and one day take them. And I didn't even put that idea in her head, you know? But I do think she's going to be my Christopher Tolkien. Anytime I'm working, it's already bigger than just me. You know, I don't tell them all my stories yet, but she knows some of the characters and she asks to hear those stories sometimes, and you know they're special to her, you know.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to be as she grows older, and even if they're just for her, you know, it's going to have an impact. But she wants to give them to other people. She tells other people my stories already, so that's exciting.
Well, it's that's along the same lines of something that I remember listening to Nate Wilson speak. And if you need to get him on the podcast,
I want him. He's going to be one of the harder ones to get. I actually,
absolutely.
Okay, for real though. I might as well. Hold on one second. Screen share. We're going to go desktop one. Yep. And share. And let me know if you can see it. It says screen share.
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. Let's go to my, and I think this is put in the recording. If it's not, I'll figure something out. Let's move that down. Let's go to my daily to-do list and ignore the craziness that is my to-do list. Thankfully, I already have it zoomed into big levels so people can see this on low resolution. Once it loads, loading, cut all this talking. It's ridiculous, Joshua. What is your problem? Oh, come on.
Filler words.
Dead air is a DJ's worst enemy. And you know that I was a DJ, so / still am in some ways. Do you ever stop being a DJ? That's yet another philosophical question.
I don't think so. No, not judging
as long
by
as you have friends who are getting married.
Yeah, not judging by just thinking about working with Todd Friel. It's like his tendency to be a comedian and to tell puns and whatnot. It never went away. It's all.
Yep.
It kind of sticks with you. So.
Yep. Okay. So I actually I wanted to show you this. I actually originally listed these out in. I need to take that one off because I don't have her scheduled. I did, but then we got tired. I actually have everyone kind of going downward from like easiest to get on the podcast down to like hardest to get. And ND Wilson's right here before Andrew Peterson. So I knew he was pretty far down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
but he's on the list.
Also, look who's not so far down. He's one of the first bigger names I'm looking at bringing on. But
yes, that'll be good.
But anyway, yeah, I've had enough conversations with him. I think it's doable. But go ahead.
So one of the things that Nate Wilson said in his talk was it was directed at mothers, but it was I forget the exact wording, but in basically, don't forget that you are raising an eternal soul.
Right.
Like that's your chief responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you have no idea the impact that you as a mother are having on this eternal soul.
Right.
And so applying that to storytelling here, like you are impacting an eternal soul through your storytelling. And we know that storytelling impacts a culture. It shapes worldviews. Yeah. Otherwise Hollywood wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Well, they're starting to give up in many ways. And this is kind of a, I talked about this with Chad Lewis on the previous podcast, but to me, at least I think I did, but to me, the idea is right now, this is the way I see the battlefield. This is the war. Okay. We've got this crazy war that has been raging on for years and years and years in the political sphere. That's like the front lines. That's where everything is going. That's where everyone's throwing their money and their troops and everything else. And it's just one giant mosh pit bloodbath.
That's the perceived front lines. Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, there's people, not literally, but in the terms that we're using the metaphor, this is a bloodbath. This is the blood pit. This is the crazy spot where everyone's living and dying. Mm-hmm. So Hollywood, probably 150-ish years ago, decided, that floodplain over there, let's go build on that floodplain and do some crazy things with it. And they got flooded out. COVID flooded them out. And they did that to evacuate people from other areas that also got rained on. But they essentially, created a massive flood on that area, and Hollywood has suffered as a result. But the fact is that mushy, swampy floodplain is now wide open for business.
Oh, absolutely.
And in a sense, everyone's migrating over to Atlanta at the same time, which is absolutely crazy and bonkers.
Terrifying too, because of the worldviews they bring with them. But
it is, but at the same time, Atlanta has never, ever, ever, ever been able to escape what Flannery O'Connor calls the haunting of God. It's not that the South is Christ-centered, it's that it's Christ-haunted, is the way she put it. And so it's a weird clash, and it's not going to result in just Hollywood again on the other side. It's just not. The South is too steeped in its Christianese culture. Not as Christian culture, it's Christianese culture.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
To not have a severe impact on Hollywood. So we've got this situation where the floodplain of storytelling, of narrative, is wide open because the snake is eating its own tail. That trying to make every movie, they're doing the same thing Christians are doing, and it's starting to slow down in that industry. But essentially, like, make it as Christian as possible or make it as woke as possible, right?
Yeah. I mean, the wokeness is a result of Hollywood shaping worldviews and them underestimating the power of that storytelling. So they, for years and years, for generations now, they've been telling people, you are the master of your own destiny. You are the ultimate moral compass. So many things. And so they are now approaching their workplace, the church, their families with this basically at the forefront of their mind. And some of them are going back to Hollywood and approaching the executives there. And oh yeah, okay, we're being pretty hypocritical over here, apparently.
It is fascinating how wide open the playing field is for good stories. As saturated as the market is, as how difficult it is to get discovered on a broad spectrum, I'm seeing more and more. The fact is, if you can make a good story and get past the first initial woke mob, you're golden.
Yeah. Well, the internet is the new Romans Road. And it is enabling people of all persuasions to reach corners of the world that they never would have otherwise. I'm convinced that that's why we have a resurgence of such crazy conspiracy theories, because suddenly these crazy people can talk to each other and join communities that once upon a time they would have been isolated, and anyone they tried to share their crazy idea with would have said, "Shut up." And it would have never gone beyond that. But now they're able to. Yeah.
Do you know about the Wives of Snape?
No, I do not.
Not exactly conspiracy theory, but there was, at least for a little while, an organized online cult of women who said they were married to the fictional character Snape and worshipped him as their Lord and Savior. And then they had a split, and then both denominations fell apart. Like, not Alan Rickman. Snape.
No,
Severus Snape.
Yes.
Who exists on some ethereal plane.
Wow. I mean, why not? Why not?
If that can happen, my silly epic poetry about, superheroes and fantasy and everything, like, there's going to be somebody who likes it.
Yes. So bring it back to the idea of a Romans Road. It's obscene that Christians would not be there at least to shout at passersby. But at best to go travel that road to find these communities of people who have never heard the gospel. And there are so many different mediums you can use to bring the worldview and gospel truth there. And this gets into the classic, Christian media back and forth of do we tell the gospel like explicitly, or do we, are we producing good art if we're not sharing the gospel? And we could talk about that all day long.
We're not, because we've done it for so many years.
Correct. We've done it, and yes. But for the Christian to say that technology and these things are evil, no, it is the new Romans road.
Mm-hmm.
And Christians need to have a presence there. And they need to be explorers of that. They need to be pioneers of it, in all honesty. What makes it, quote unquote, evil is the depravity of man. Man corrupts basically everything he can get his hands on. And so that's why every new technology is tainted with sin. It's not the technology itself, so to speak. It's that mankind is using it. So anyway, minor tirade there, but
well, in that regard, that's why it's so important to trust the Holy Spirit and to actually grow in grace, worship Him, and in turn trust the leadings of the Holy Spirit in Scripture, in your thought process, in the way that God is remaking your mind to do what you feel called to do, and not in some crazy way. Just trust the sanctification process that God is putting you through, that this is the path that He's put you on. I stress this a lot. My a lot of people say they have a life verse or like a favorite Bible verse. Mine is Joshua 1:9, and it says, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord will be with you wherever you go." That was specifically to the leader of God's people, a man who was the second to Moses, who had no power in and of himself, who was completely, without the wizarding power of Moses. And he had to trust God and just walk in as a warrior. And the fact is, God gave promises to Abraham that He fulfilled in Joshua. His people have this covenant promise down through the ages that includes the promise He made to Joshua. If you are a Christian leader, His promise is to you that He will be with you wherever you go. Do not turn to the right or the left, right? Do not turn to the right or the left, and He will be with you wherever you go.
And sometimes that means the grave.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. We're in a battle after all. This is poets at war after all, right? Well, these poets are going to be wrapping up here. Stay on. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes after. Hopefully not too long to keep you away from your wife, but you know how it goes.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
I
enjoy when we get to sit down and talk. I do.
Yeah, for real. So not just where can people find you, but if you have anything left to add, go ahead. But also, where can people find you?
Okay. So you can find me searching my name, Benjamin Curlee, and Curlee is spelled Curlee. So yeah, it's English spelling. I don't know. There's not too many people with that spelling, although I've encountered some people lately moving into Atlanta that have the same last name. So are
they really weird?
Yes. I need to do an ancestry search or something and see if they're related somewhere up the chain. But anyway, so you can find me at BenjaminCurlee.com, most social media platforms. And then if you want to work with me, check out yonderchild.com is the website. Yes, we don't have much there, but we do have a button that you can click on to contact us. So we have the bare minimum.
We do the great work of making things pretty.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Benjamin. Everyone, be your family's bard, work hard, and remember, do not turn from the right or the left. God will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you all.
God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall pray.